Coming up, reflecting on 10 years since the miracle on the Hudson.
Demonstrating real-world stalls, plus jumping out of airplanes to honor our veterans.
And good news for commercial drone operators. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
Celebrate 20 years of Sonex aircraft by building and flying your dream. Quick handling, fun and capable kit aircraft models to suit your flying passions. Get the best performance per dollar with Sonex aircraft.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haynes and Melissa Rudinger.
Hard to believe, but it was 10 years ago Tuesday, the day an Airbus A320 ended up in the Hudson River and everybody got out alive.
It quickly became known as the Miracle on the Hudson, and it became a worldwide inspiration. This week, passengers and crew gathered for a reunion in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Warren Morningstar was there.
2008 was a desperate time, and 2009 didn't start any better. People desperately needed something to give them hope, make them feel better about their country. And then
you get a call like we did this afternoon, and you immediately fear the worst. Good Morning America's Robin Roberts called in. There's a plane down in the Hudson River, she reported, an airliner. U.S. Air Flight 1549 had just taken off from New York's LaGuardia Airport bound for Charlotte. Within minutes, the plane crash-landed into the icy waters of the Hudson River. All indications are the plane struck something, a bird strike most likely, and the pilot used the river as a runway in order to make a water landing. And the great news, everyone made it off the plane safely.
What a wonderful day it was for New York, and we needed a wonderful day. It was 8 years after the deadly attack on our country on September 11th, and it was in the midst of the financial crisis as well.
Valley Collins was in seat 26D.
We hear this boom, and the plane dropped, not a lot, just a little bit, but I looked at my seatmate, but he's at the window, and I said, "What was that?" And he told me it was birds, because he was looking out the window. And then I saw smoke and smelled, a really bad odor that we now know was burning goose flesh, I guess. And that's when I became really aware that we had a problem, because a long time ago I had a pilot tell me, "Don't worry about turbulence. Pilots, we just worry about birds and fire." So I thought, great, we've got birds and fire.
Now, Valley joined some 100 other people in Charlotte Tuesday, 100 people who had been aboard U.S. Air Flight 1549 from New York to Charlotte 10 years ago. They've become family, and this was their family reunion.
A lot of the passengers live in the Charlotte area, and so me living in Jacksonville, it's been a little bit more difficult. You stayed in touch for the first little while, and then once Facebook kind of took over there, then we can stay in touch that way, and we have a Flight 1549 closed group that we communicate through, and it's great because they're friends that we've made. We've probably would have never met each other in many cases in the normal course of life, but each time we look out there and see something good with them on Facebook, it's all good.
The Carolinas Aviation Museum in Charlotte is now home for the Airbus A320 that was Flight 1549. The museum hosted a private event this week for the people who had been aboard that flight.
And I came in, and it was the first time I saw it, and it's an amazing experience, and you're really in awe. The aircraft is so large, the damage is so extensive. You think about the number of people and all the things that had to happen that day, and I just really think it's aptly named the Miracle on the Hudson.
But for the flight crew, it was less miracle, more training and experience.
Yeah, this was a novel, unanticipated event for which we had never specifically trained. In our flight simulators at the time, it was not possible to practice a water landing. So we had to very quickly take what we did know, adapt it, and apply it a new way to very quickly solve this problem and get it right the first time in less than 3.5 minutes. And that's why it was so important that Jeff also had been a captain before in the 737 before he came to the Airbus. He also has 20,000 hours of flying time. He was able to immediately and intuitively understand this developing crisis as I did, because I didn't have time to direct his every action. He had to know what he should do to help me. In other words, we were able to collaborate wordlessly in a situation where the time pressure and the workload were so extreme we didn't have time even to talk about it. I met him on Monday when we started this 4-day trip, 3 days before this challenge of a lifetime.
Wow.
So that's just an indication of how deeply internalized are these, not only these technical skills, flying skills, but the team skills that we learn, that I used to teach, to how to solve any problem in an airplane, have a paradigm at the ready to impose order on chaos.
And the takeaway lessons?
It was a positive experience. So for me, immediately, what I learned from this positive experience is that I have zero tolerance for negative people.
I reflect back on that day and I think about the end of the day for me, where I was in a hotel, the first time that I had looked in a mirror since rescue. I fell in when I was rescued. When I got to Weehawken Ferry Terminal, they came and passed out pants and shirts, and the first mate on the boat that rescued me had given me his hooded sweatshirt. When I looked in the mirror, and the image that I saw looking back at me that day was that of a homeless person. And it gave me a care and a compassion for the homeless that without going through this experience, I never would have had that gift.
That day, to be such a tragic, traumatic, stressful situation, you really saw some of the best of humanity. The civilian boats, the ferry boats, of course the Coast Guard. I mean, everybody just coming to our rescue. It was unbelievable.
So if the miracle on the Hudson is an example to us, it is that in the Bible it says to love our neighbors as we would love ourselves. But maybe after situations like this and the great efforts that we saw, we should love our neighbors because they are ourselves.
In Charlotte, Warren Morningstar, AOPA Live.
Really was a miracle on the Hudson.
It was. It's remarkable. It's remarkable to see how it affected those folks' lives. And,
Yeah.
and as a pilot, you can't even imagine.
Can't imagine
that situation.
It was great to see Sully and Jeff Skiles there. They're looking good, and thanks guys for all you did that day. It's really important. Pretty neat stuff. Well, hey, as we record this, the government still shut down, but more than 10,000 air traffic controllers are on the job working without pay. Now the FAA has called another couple thousand employees back to work, mostly inspectors. They too won't get paid until after the budget impasse is resolved. NATCA, the controllers union, joined with some other unions to sue to get their pay now. The judge refused to issue a temporary restraining order, but there's another hearing on a preliminary injunction scheduled for Friday. So Warren flew down to Charlotte for that Miracle on the Hudson piece, and he reports back that the controllers are very accommodating and very professional as always. So thanks to them too for staying on the job and helping us out.
Yes, thank you. And it looks like we're not anywhere near resolution, but we'll keep hoping.
I hope so. It's a kind gesture from our friends to the north. NAV Canada controllers have been sending pizza to U.S. air traffic control facilities during the shutdown. They wanted to make sure the unpaid controllers were still getting fed. So, oh Canada, you're so polite, eh?
There's a tremendous opportunity for you to help general aviation. A $2 million challenge grant is on the line for the AOPA Foundation. It's going to take your help to get all the potential money, and AOPA Live's Paul Harrop has the details.
It's a big opportunity for the AOPA Foundation that funds the You Can Fly programs that you're seeing here, and it's thanks to a very generous offer from the James C. Ray Foundation.
The Ray Foundation is incredibly generous. They've been a big supporter of the You Can Fly program for many years.
It's going to take some work to get the full benefit, though.
They are offering a $2 million matching grant. So if the AOPA Foundation raises $2 million, the Ray Foundation will match dollar for dollar those donations up to $2 million.
That means $4 million to help the You Can Fly program.
The You Can Fly program is a multi-pronged initiative to help pilots be successful wherever they may be in their journey.
From high schools to flight schools, flying clubs to rusty pilots, You Can Fly works to grow aviation. This very generous challenge grant will help the program do that. One point to make is if you want your donation to count towards the challenge grant, you've got to submit it on the You Can Fly challenge page. Head to aopafoundation.org/challenge. There you'll see this form. If you're logged in, it'll already have your contact information. Just submit the amount that's right for you and you'll help secure this amazing opportunity to grow, protect, and preserve general aviation.
Find out more information about the You Can Fly programs on our website.
And speaking of learning to fly, flight training is safer than ever. That's according to a new report released by the Air Safety Institute and Liberty University. The report examines all of the fatal flight training accidents from 2000 to 2015. And during that period, the overall accident rate decreased 35%. Still room for improvement, though. The report says the industry needs to keep working to reduce losses of control accidents and mid-air collisions. You can find the full report on the ASI website. One of the ways to improve flight training is to show real-world examples of academic concepts learned in ground school. AOPA pilot editor-at-large Dave Hirschman does just that, demonstrating stall recovery in unusual attitudes.
Student pilots learn in ground school that airplanes can stall at any attitude and any airspeed. But what does that really mean? We typically practice stalls with the wings level and engine power at idle, and the results are predictable. The stall takes place at about the same airspeed and the same nose-up attitude every time, and simply lowering the nose below the horizon fixes everything. But what about in the real world, where momentary aircraft upsets can lead to aerodynamic stalls in unusual attitudes? Here, a Cicada TB-30 Epsilon is going to stall with the airplane's nose pointed straight down, full engine power, and an indicated airspeed well beyond the power-off stall speed.
Now, as the nose comes down, I'm going to pull, and you'll feel the airplane depart on the down line. So there, the airplane is pointed straight down. We're at full power, and yet we can still exceed the airplane's critical angle of attack.
A pilot's reflex to pull back on the stick is deeply ingrained. It's natural for any pilot, particularly a startled one, to haul back on the stick when they find themselves in a steep nose-down attitude.
Now all we need to do is release the back pressure, lower the angle of attack, let the airplane fly out.
The takeaway from all this is something we all know academically. The wing always stalls at the same critical angle of attack, and that angle has nothing to do with the airplane's attitude. Dave Hirschman, AOPA Live.
Good stuff. It's hard to imagine, visualize that, so the video really helps.
Yeah, that's a great video, actually. So what a real-world example of why you have to do it in person, not just read about it.
Yeah, really. Thanks, Dave. Coming up after the break, see what it's like to jump out of the World War II airplanes.
And opening up the skies for commercial drone operators. You're watching AOPA Live this week.
Purchasing your own aircraft is an exciting experience. AOPA Finance simplifies the process, saving you money with lower interest rates and hassle-free loans, so you get into your new aircraft sooner. AOPA Finance, the right approach to buying an aircraft.
Welcome back. The FAA is working to ease the rules for commercial drone operators. The agency released a notice of proposed rulemaking that would allow for flight over people or at night without a waiver. For night flights, the drone would need to be equipped with lights and the operator would need additional training. To fly over people, the FAA assigns different risk categories depending on the weight and design of the drone. The proposal will be open for public comment until mid-March.
Here in the dead of winter, those of us living in colder climates dream of warm flying destinations. This week's edition of AOPA Travel Pilot is full of tips and stories about flying to one of the ultimate warm destinations, the Bahamas. See some of the best places to fly, along with some beautiful pictures and video of the islands. You can sign up for Travel Pilot on our website.
Well, even if you can't fly to the Bahamas, warmer days and the busy fly-in season will be here before you know it. AOPA will be kicking off the summer flying season with a fly-in here to Frederick, Maryland on May 10th and 11th. The event will celebrate the 80th anniversary of AOPA, and one of the big attractions will be a group of C-47s. They are part of the D-Day Squadron, a group of airplanes heading to Normandy, France to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the invasion on June 6th. More than 30 aircraft will drop over 250 paratroopers above the beaches of Normandy to honor the troops that sacrificed so much on that day. Visitors to the Frederick Fly-In will get a chance to see a demonstration drop. And it takes a lot of work and training before you can jump out of a C-47. AOPA technical editor Mike Collins has a story about one of the groups that's making these jumps, called the World War II Airborne Demonstration Team.
Don't call the World War II Airborne Demonstration Team reenactors. This is living history of America's airborne legacy. In 2008, Colonel Ray Steele, who retired from the Army after 38 years in Special Forces, jumped with ADT. It was his first jump in 18 years.
It was so exciting, so exhilarating to step out of that World War II aircraft in the footsteps of so many World War II veterans, and some that didn't come home. And it was just awe-inspiring, and I've loved it.
Today, he is Chief of Staff. In October, ADT held its week-long jump school, teaching people to jump with round parachutes from C-47 aircraft.
Prepare to land. Land.
Land. All of Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we implement all training. So it's hours here in the pit performing your PLFs.
Land. You do where you're just standing here?
There you go, kick it out, come on. We do suspended harness training for hours on end. Mock door training, so that's how you exit the airplane safely.
Brad O'Connor is one of ADT's pilots. Despite 27 years flying Air Force jets, his C-47 check ride took a year and a half to complete. 2 engine failures interrupted his examination.
When the jumpers go out, it's impressive as all get out. You feel it in the controls. The rudder will kick off to the side a little bit. You feel the tail go up and down a little bit as the weight shifts. You hear the rattle of the carabiners going down the static line, and then all of a sudden it's quiet. And when every jumper goes out the door, there's a whoof, whoof, whoof. You can feel the pressure change in the airplane as they block that wind.
In June 2019, some of the team will travel to Europe to help commemorate the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
To be able to go to Normandy on the 75th means a lot because I get to see and experience, not exactly, but the place that they jumped into, our veterans, where they went and risked everything in their lives to save their country.
Mike Collins, AOPA Live.
You can read more about the World War II Airborne Demonstration Team in the February issue of AOPA Pilot Magazine. Man, that is quite an undertaking. Amazing training they go through.
I have never heard of that group. I have to admit. So I'm excited they're coming to Frederick.
Yeah.
And what a special thing that they do.
Look forward to them being here in May.
Absolutely. Speaking of World War II, we have a correction to one of our stories from last week. In reporting on the Arsenal of Democracy, the group of World War II airplanes that will fly over D.C., we said it was to commemorate the end of the war. The event is actually to commemorate the 75th anniversary of VE Day and taking place on May 8th, 2020. Thanks to one of our viewers for pointing that out. Well, that does it for our show this week. We leave you with another clip from World War II Airborne Demonstration Team's Jump School. Former Army Band member Carl McGuire plays taps on his English horn in the shadow of a C-47.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here next week.